I think there's a tendency in our circles to, dare I say, react and overreact to some of kind of mainstream conservatism's talking points. Things like taxes need to be cut. People are spending too much money on that kind of stuff. The government's inefficient. The state can't do this kind of thing. You know, all that kind of stuff. The argument for more economic liberalism, the free market, etc. And justifiably, in a lot of cases, people make fun of that and people deride that as there's plenty of reasons, and we can talk about that some other time. But to be perfectly fair to kind of conservatism, Inc., and kind of its supporters and the people who might criticize those in our part of the internet, there is some truth to the idea that a lot of the people with these more, I guess you could say, socialistic economic ideas haven't really worked a job that pays enough or have lived on their own and tried to pay their own way to an extent to really kind of feel the impact of that. Like, in a lot of cases, when I think, I guess I and a lot of other people start off in these circles, we're like, oh, tax the rich. Oh, conservatives are bitching. Conservatives are complaining about income tax. And then once you get like a decent paying job, like not a wealthy job, but like a middle class job, and you start to see like 30 to 40% of your monthly paycheck go to the government, and you not really receive what you think you should be receiving in turn, you're like, these guys kind of have a point. And when they start talking about like the government nickeling and diming you and providing substandard things and stuff like that, like once you actually start having to pay bills and things like that, you really start to see what they're getting at. And that's kind of always been a big issue, just a complete side note, between, I guess you could say, conservatives and not just liberals, but like radicals, is most conservatives in America are like people who have jobs and families, and they're kind of like too busy doing that. There's not that many who are professional activists. I mean, there's quite a few, but compared to like Antifa, there's really not that many. So I had kind of one of those moments the other day that maybe Conservatism Inc. has more points than we think of on the economic issue. So I do my best, generally speaking, to conserve electricity. This isn't just like a save the earth type of thing, but this is more or less a money kind of thing. Because if you do some kind of pretty easy stuff, like make sure you turn off the lights when you go to work, don't leave things on, that kind of thing, etc., etc. Whenever I kind of leave for a couple days, I make sure to turn off like all my power bars so there's no like phantom drain. You can really lower your electric bill a lot. And I mean, when you're budgeting from month to month, any recurring cost that you can lower is a good thing. So I thought I was doing really well. And my hydro provider has a thing where you can look online and you can tell how much electricity you're using every day. So I've been really good about it in the last month. So if we look at my hydro bill, and this isn't really doxing, so I don't think I've ever claimed I don't live in Ontario. And this is a pretty standard Ontario electrical bill. I have only, my electricity cost has only been, let me see, what is that? Let me just fire up the calculator. 1.91 plus 0.454 plus 3.14 is about $5.60. So due to just the size of where I live and my habits, my total electricity usage for the month is $5.60. So I'm like, well, why is my bill $60 then? Like, how can it be that high? So we have this bullshit here, delivery. So the delivery fee is, and let me see, what is this? It's, okay, so we have, let's see, 18.5 divided by 5.6. So the delivery fee is 3 1/3 times what I pay in electricity. So how does this make sense? Because you'd think, okay, so I'm buying the electricity from the company. Wouldn't you expect that the delivery price would be built into it? Like, that just seems really weird to me. Especially when the delivery price is like 300 or 400% the cost that I'm actually spending on the electricity. And I looked it up, and the explanation was, oh, this is the infrastructure that everybody uses. Everybody uses the same infrastructure, and the cost that they charge you for using electricity doesn't cover that. So they have to charge everybody a flat fee. And I looked it up, and I think something like 30 to 40% of Ontario Hydro's profits or income comes from delivery costs. And just to me, basic logic would suggest you calculate out your delivery cost and you divide it up by the number of kilowatt hours you sell, and you include that in the price of the kilowatt hour. So then the people who are making the most use of the electricity have to pay the most for the grid's upkeep. Like, doesn't that just kind of basically make sense? But no, that's not the way it works. And it irritates me because I could be, in actuality, even if they were to double my electricity rates, by like kind of downgrading the delivery costs. I don't have the calculations in front of me to do it. You would think that, but that's apparently not what they were going for. And then we have this $40 charge. And what this is was a registration fee. Because when I switched over to this electricity provider, they charged me $40. And I'm like, well, this is retarded. It's like, why do I have to give you money to buy a product from you? Like, does that make any sense at all? It's like, well, we really don't want to sell you the product. I mean, we're the electricity company, and I guess we make electricity and you pay us for the electricity. But if you want the privilege of giving us money for a product we're producing, you need to give us $40 up front. And I mean, I guess it can make sense in some contexts. Like when I purchased internet, the guys had to come by, they gave me a router, and they had to send people by to like install it. And that makes sense to me, but I mean, this is the hydro grid. Everything's already hooked up to it anyway, so there's literally nothing they had to do on their end. So my point is, if we look at, and I'm not going to have to pay this every month, but I'm just trying to make a point here. So 59.35 minus 5.6 equals 54. So 54 divided by 5.6. So my the non-usage related costs on this bill are approximately 10 times the cost of what I actually used. And I mean, when you look at stuff like this and you hear conservatives kind of complaining about it, you can really tell where they're coming from. Because it's like, okay, if this was, and once again, this doesn't even make sense from a liberal standpoint, because shouldn't we be encouraging people to use less electricity? And in this case, if I was to like double the amount I was using, it wouldn't really affect my bill that much because we have these massive like fixed costs. So yeah, I'm just saying, on some things, Conservatism Inc. definitely has a point, and I get where they're coming from on the whole small government thing. Anyways, hope that was kind of interesting.